With
Hi, I'm Dan Martin.
Jennifer Robbins.
Michael Biello.
and you are the creators of Mary Harry, which I saw at the New York Music Festival. How long ago was that?
2013, maybe? 2013?
4 years.
It's been a long journey.
And I still remember the minute he said about the international, I'm like, oh my God, this is that musical. I loved it when I saw it. I'm like so happy it's getting a full production.
We are too.
It's a new production. I mean, it's a lot of changes. The Village Voice is there's a lot of new things.
So how did you get from there to here?
Well, we walked.
Climbed a couple mountains.
Stayed up a few nights. Met many. Well, we had another production. After the Nymph production, we had a production at American Theater Group in Rahway, New Jersey, which was, what, 2 years ago?
You know, it's a journey because you make something and you don't really see it until it's up on stage, and then you think of all these possibilities of how it could maybe be improved a little bit. So, and we like working with each other, don't we?
We do.
So how did you all meet then?
Ah, there we go. Go ahead. Michael. Well, I saw a musical they had done at
Nymph.
At Nymph also was called The Cousins Grimm.
Cousins Grimm.
And I was shopping around for somebody to do music of a story that I had written, and well, actually it began with a film idea I had done with my son, and then I adapted it to a play thinking it would be a musical. I mean, there's a lot of steps here. And I was thinking about finding a book writer and finding composers for it, and I had seen the work they had done, The Cousins Grimm, and I thought it was the same as this show. It was both quirky and original, and the melodies were beautiful, and it was sweet and romantic. I mean, just kind of all the things I was looking for to tell this story. So that was the beginning of our journey, and ultimately I decided to do the book myself. So it's been a very, very we've worked really hard on it. We've had many, and since Bill came involved as the director, our new director, we've kind of done many different revisions and refinements and stuff. So it's been about from the beginning, maybe 8 years.
So it was your idea to begin with.
It began with something I had done with my son actually a long time ago. A movie that we had written that we decided wasn't going to be a movie, but maybe could be a musical.
Did he want to be a chef and you owned a restaurant, or just?
No, it wasn't. You know, I guess we all bring ourselves into whatever we do, but it wasn't autobiographical in that sense at all. But I do have a family that's involved in family businesses, so I know something about that on a very personal level. And family restaurants are always great material. And I do have a family cooking. My mother had a cooking school in New York. And she wrote many cookbooks, and so that area always interests me, as it does Dan and Michael.
And why Lydia? Why not pick Gordon Ramsay or the son Joe?
Well, that's
that's sort of, it comes from, Dan and I really love Lydia Bastianich. We have her cookbooks, and she's like a real person that inspires us. So in the part where little Harry is, we wanted Harry to sort of have a mother figure in it, because his mom left when he was a baby. So Lydia becomes a
muse.
A muse for him to kind of create his dream and be his dream and move toward that in his life. So, and Lydia is perfect for that for me, because she's plum food goddess Bastianich.
Motherly, and her,
she's a total mom figure.
And it's not sort of it's essential cooking. It's not show-off cooking, even though she's completely skilled and brilliant. But it's really centered and very respectful of Italian culture. And so that's, I don't know, just a lot of elements came together to make us choose her.
We wanted Italian food. I mean, Italian restaurant. That was kind of the basis of it. And also, she's a very recognizable name. I mean, it really, I think for audiences to respond to who she is, it helps that people know who she is.
Oh, absolutely.
So that kind of was an added element.
Yeah, and she's been supportive of the project. She came to see it and loved it, and yeah, so that's a good thing. She's proud of it.
So what? Do you both do the music and lyrics together, or does one do music and one do lyrics?
I do music, and Michael
Lyrics.
We're also life partners, so we collaborate and we also live together, and we've been doing that for a long time.
Oh, so that's great. You don't know where one begins and one ends.
Not always. It can get a little confusing.
Well, they spent nights together thinking through all these things, right?
So what kind of music, because it's an Italian restaurant, but you get to do international, so do you get to spice up the music?
Sure. I mean, when you write a show, you're influenced by, or when you're a composer, you're influenced by a lot of stuff. I grew up on Rodgers and Hammerstein, and I admire Maury Yeston and Sondheim, and I love rock music, and I love kind of classical music. So, I try to bring a little bit of everything that inspires me into the project to serve the story,
And with the village,
Just add though, in terms of the types of music, I mean, we almost go from rap to beautiful ballads to very quirky, very upbeat things. I mean, there's really an enormous amount of variety that they have brought in the score.
and with the village voice, you have you can do something fantastical, and you can really let your imagination go with lyrics and everything.
Yeah, it just gives me permission to write poetry and slam and just play with words in a different way, and they're able to take that because it's from a make-believe place, away from the main four characters in the piece. So that's been fun for me. I mean, I love them.
And I live in the East Village, so I'm really, I live in the East Village, which is why I'm enjoying this much more than Rent, because Rent tried to be realistic about the East Village and wasn't, and you're being fantastical about the East Village, which you should be.
It is. It's totally.
See the set is the East Village.
It's interesting perspective of the East Village, and yeah, it should be fun.
And
I think there's a part of it that the story from the beginning has always been a love story between the uptown girl and the downtown man, and that's there. But the way we're telling the story this time is different. That's what's really different about it, and that's where the village voices come in.
Because it's a love story about families.
Yeah, families.
About the parents and learning how to let go and leave and not cut. It's a very much of it's love story on many levels. But I want to say something about the score, because I see a lot of shows, and you can walk out of a big musical and not remember. Nothing is really in your head. But in this show, I mean, there isn't a song that doesn't stick in your head. You hear it, and all of a sudden, it comes at you. But I mean, they really are. They're just beautiful songs that stay with you.
That's the best thing about musicals. Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this, and bon appetit and bon show.
Thank you.
The creative team is with us. Dan Martin, who wrote the music, Martin Biello, who wrote the lyrics, and Jennifer Robbins, who wrote the book. We're delighted to be working with them. And Eric Smekar is our music director. Who's here. And the director of this little skit is someone we are delighted to be working with again, Mr. Bill Castellino.
Yes, thank you. Happy Passover, happy Easter. And thank you for being here. It is great to be back at the York. As you know, it is my artistic home in New York, and I am so grateful to Jim and the staff for continuing to devote themselves to new musicals and with the insight they have as to how to make a new musical. It is not a common amount of knowledge. They have it in abundance, and for that we are incredibly grateful. And speaking of gratitude, I mean, they've written this beautiful play that's getting more beautifuler and beautifuler by the moment. We've been, I would say, in the workshop frame of mind for the last year as we bring this to its poetic and I think beautiful setting at the York starting in a few weeks. A beautiful show is not beautiful without a beautiful cast, which we happen to have in abundance also. So I don't make any mistakes. The Village voices are, please stand when I call your name, Ben Chavez, Jesse Manchurian, and Claire Saunders. Big Harry is Lenny Wolfe. His son, Little Harry, and if you're Italian, you know that it's not uncommon that if you're a son of a father, you were the little one, he is the big one, no matter how that pans out. Little Harry's name is Fedora. Francine Waters, Robin Sky. Their daughter, Sherry Morgan Kelly. A special shout out to my associate director, Joseph Haywood, very important person. And Christy Kendall, my assistant choreographer. There's Betty Clark, our stage manager. Yes, thank you. The Village Voices got invented in this last incarnation, as we talked about Mary Harry, and they ended up being the key to unlock the storytelling from my department. They were characters at one point in this play, and somehow they have morphed into spiritual beings called the Village Voices. The show takes place in a block in the East Village where graffiti comes to life and mannequins dance and culinary angels sing. You'll see some of that today. And they really are the spiritual life of the play. They make commentary, they are engines, they are dreams, and it's been a very exciting process working with them to figure out how that plays into this fantastical story that we're trying to tell. So we have a couple of numbers to share with you. The first one is near the opening of the show. There's a restaurant called Cucini, and it has been a family restaurant in the East Village for several generations, and it has fallen on somewhat difficult times, and Big Harry is always coming up with schemes on how to keep the restaurant open. And this is his sharing that scheme with his son, Little Harry. And what happens in this scene, in addition, is our Village Voices turn into waiters of many nations, bringing out tablecloths and dancing with tablecloths and dancing with international food. And at one point you'll see Big Harry directing traffic this way. That's because in his dream, the restaurant is turning into an international restaurant and flags of many nations come across the stage. So that's what this first number is. It's called Harry's Way.
Little Harry, would you get out here? I figured it out. I got the answer.
Answer to what, Dad?
The answer to our survival. Now look, every day a different ethnic restaurant opens up on this block. That's what people want, variety. So we'll give it to them all in one place.
Another cockamamie scheme. You know how well your Cajun Greek fusion menu went.
That's because I tried combining. This is different. Monday chicken tikka.
Indian. We become an Indian restaurant.
Tuesday chicken teriyaki.
And then we magically become Japanese the next day.
Wednesday chicken taco.
Oh, pretty Mexican too.
Thursday chicken souvlaki.
This is absurd.
Friday chicken fricassee. Saturday chicken chow mein. Sunday chicken parmesan.
Oh my God. Dad, this isn't a food court.
Where can you have something different every night with waiters wearing colors instead of boring black and white? Tell me, where do you have such a choice of things to eat? A different menu every day. Here we do it Harry's way.
Different menu every day? No, that's a terrible idea.
Shrimp. Monday shrimp tikka, Tuesday shrimp teriyaki, Wednesday shrimp taco. taco, Thursday shrimp, souvlaki, Friday shrimp, fricassee, Saturday shrimp, chow mein, Sunday shrimp, parmesan. Where? Tell me where? Come on in, grab a chair, relax and unwind. Yeah, we're one of a kind. Come get it while it's hot. I promise it'll hit the spot. A different menu every day. Here we do it Harry's way. Oh, come on, just give it a chance. Where? Tell me where? Can you take a trip around the world in just 1 week?
Where, Dad?
Right here. Bombay, Tokyo, Mexico, Hong Kong, Paris, Rome.
This is ridiculous.
No place on earth, I tell you. No place I know serves different food from a different country. Every night a different spice at a decent price. Monday pork tikka, Tuesday pork teriyaki, Wednesday pork teriyaki, Thursday pork souvlaki, Friday pork fricassee, Friday egg pork chow mein, Sunday pork parmesan. Where else no place I tell you? No place I know serves different food from a different country. Every night a different spice at a decent price. There, tell me where. Come on in, grab a chair, relax and unwind. Come and get it while it's hot. I promise it'll hit the spot. A different menu every day. Here we do it Harry's way. Tell me where. Come on in, grab a chair, relax and
Thank you. Meanwhile, next door to Cudicini's is Zoya for Brides, a very chic, obscure little bridal shop where people from the Upper East Side have come down for a fitting, the final fitting before her wedding. And this is Mom waiting outside the dressing room as her daughter puts on her very expensive and very beautiful new gown. And as she's singing, magically the mannequins in the store come to life to support her thrill about her daughter getting married. Robin Sky.
Louis, wouldn't believe where Sherry's dragged me to. Zoya for Brides. Yeah, you heard of it. It's chic. Ah, I knew that. Yeah. Well, only in New York would you find a little hole-in-the-wall shop that sells dresses for almost as much as an original Christian Lacroix. You're right. You're right. She is worth it. My little girl, my buttercup, my baby's getting married. My one and only darling daughter, love of my life will be a wife. My precious dove, my sweetie pie, the apple of my eye. Little girl I birthed and fed, my pride and joy will be new.
the third generation restaurateur of Cudicini's, has other plans. His father, of course, wants him to stay in the family business, but as often is the case with third generation Americans, he has other thoughts that he has not had the courage to tell his dad about yet. So little Harry has a scheme up his sleeve about another job, and as he prays for inspiration about that, our Village Voices become, of course, magical culinary angels, guide him on his cosmic journey to wherever it is he thinks he wants to go. That would be David Spadora as Little Harry. Thanks, Mom.
Dad, how to say this without killing you? I'm leaving, Dad. I've applied for a new position. I want to be a chef, Dad. Not a cook. A chef. Work for the best. Not that you're not the best, Dad. You know what I mean. No, you don't know what I mean. Dad, I really love you. But Dad, I'm almost 30, and I want to move on, move on. So I've applied to be the sous chef at Felidia. If they choose me, I'll be working for Lydia Bastianich. Me, Dad, your son, working for Lydia. My inspiration, my muse, my life. Lydia, queen of Italian cuisine. Lydia, Sicily, Puglia, Marche. Lydia, plump food goddess Bastianich. Lydia, Cicci, prosciutto. Lydia, gnocchi, polpette, bronzino. Lydia, fusiloni, broccoli raw, olio. Lydia, biscotti, fighi, espresso. Lydia, rosso di Montalcino. Lydia, tutti a tavola a mangiare. Lydia, Lydia, Lydia,
So, Mary Harry is about food. It is about dreams. It's about food. It's about growing up and figuring that out. It's about food. And it's about love, because it's a musical. And it's Italian. So, this finds Little Harry and Sherry the morning after they spent a night together on a first date, which was pretty magical. Even though they are in bed, we will be representing that PG-13 for the York audience, and to sing a song that they sing when they wake up after lovemaking are David Spadora again and Morgan Callaghan.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Pinch me, I think I'm dreaming. Ow!
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You did say pinch me.
hours ago, I met this guy in the alleyway who I thought wanted to steal my ring. At this moment, I'm so happy.
You're the kind of woman I never, in a million years, thought would be caught dead with a guy like me.
Don't say that.
As soon as news gets out that you're not marrying Brandon, you'll be swept off your feet by the kind of guy who deserves you, and I'll be history.
What's that supposed to mean? The kind of guy who deserves me? Seriously, that's so...
You're uptown, I am down. You're rich, I'm not. You're royalty, I'm a regular Joe. And I don't wanna let you go.
So what if we're different? I'm bored with the same. Opposites attract, they do, and I love being here with you. I never thought I'd be falling so quickly.
I never thought very much about falling at all.
Wasn't surprised as I look in your I'm trembling inside.
So am I.
This must be love at first sight. We were meant to be in the right place.
At the right time.
Will you
What?
marry me?
That's crazy.
I know. Marry me.
Ain't that just like love?
So here we are with.
Bill Castellino.
So Cagney, another show closes, and Mary Harry, another show opens.
I'm very blessed. They're going to both be running simultaneously through all of May. So Cagney closes the 28th, and we open May 4th. So I get a month of a double feature.
So tell us about Mary Harry.
Wonderful show. It's romantic. It's Italian. It's New York. It is magical. It takes place in the East Village, where all kinds of wonderful, fantastical things can happen. It's full of walls coming to life and angels singing and people falling in love and growing up and lots of food.
Isn't it nice you did a regular person, well-known person, and now you get to do this magical, imaginative, dreamy musical.
Yeah, it's really something. I mean, I'm so proud of the work on Cagney and so grateful for our good fortune there. But now to move on to Mary Harry, where a New York audience can see another side of my kind of storytelling, it's very exciting to do that.
And it started off at New York Music Festival, didn't it?
Yes, I wasn't involved with it. It was at NYMF many years ago. It had a production in Rahway, New Jersey, and also a workshop at Vassar. And I got involved with it about a year ago when the composer and lyricist, who are old friends of mine, invited me to participate. We did a couple of readings at York and a mountain of rewrites. And we went into rehearsal a few weeks ago and opened on May 4th, the new, exciting, magical Mary Harry.
Yay, I mean, it's just wonderful that New York is the best place to put on a musical.
Oh, thanks. How'd you like what you saw today?
Oh my God, I loved it. It's my kind of show.
Oh, good. Well, if you're in love, ever have been, or ever plan to be, I suggest Mary Harry. Also, if you're hungry, there's food on stage.
Do we get to eat any of it?
No, but you smell a little, I bet.
So you should be well fed before you go see them.
Biscotti. Remember that word.
We are with,
Lenny Walpe,
and you are in.
Mary Harry.
Oh my gosh, it's such a charming, charming musical, isn't it?
Oh, thanks for saying that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, we're having a great time.
And I would love to go to your restaurant with it. I think it's a brilliant idea having internet. I think it's brilliant.
I can't imagine the logistics of actually having a different menu every night, but I think it's a great idea. You know, it'd be fun to try.
Especially with all in New York City, the melting pot, all the different ethnicities. I mean, why settle for just 7? You could have a month of international.
We'll have to buy 30 different cuisines, right? And alternate like that. I'm sure the chefs would go nuts, but I think it's a great idea, right?
Well, then your son would go nuts.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, he does, but why don't you want him to be a chef? I mean, it's still part of the business.
Well, I think he is a great chef, and for me, I think it's just handing down generation to generation. And once he leaves, it's like that continuum's gone. And then, but Big Harry comes to the realization that he has to let his son go and has to let him grow. And if times change, they change. But it's a big leap for him because he didn't leave, his grandfather didn't leave, his great grandfather, you know. So it's the end of the lineage, and that's a tough thing to accept.
Yeah, it is.
But you have to, as a good dad, you have to let them, you know, fly and flap their wings and create the way they need to. So,
like the Village Voice, they like to flap their wings a lot.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So how did you come across this anyway? How did you get this? Because I saw this ages ago at Nymph.
Okay, well, we auditioned, you know, like a month before rehearsal started, so that's how we all got cast in the show. And I'd actually done a reading of it about 3 years ago, but it was a very different incarnation of it. There were a lot of different characters. There was a big ensemble. There were all these waiters and chefs, and I think the way they pared it down is really fantastic, especially using the 3 voices is, I think, just pretty genius. So.
And then you were in Dear World before that.
And got to work with Tyne Daly, so that was, talk about a heavenly experience. That was sensational. It was wonderful, yeah.
You're always playing lovable characters, aren't you? It's your specialty.
Yes, I guess. His temper does flare up a little bit in this, but I think it's part of the persona I project, I guess. But I'd rather play people you like than you hate, so that's always nice, yeah.
It's much nicer seeing people like you, too. I said that no dead baby.
That's true.
Well, congrats.
Morgan Cowling.
And you are the one who wants to marry Harry.
Yes, that's me. Yeah, I mean, right through the middle of the show, she's like, one date, let's get married. She's a modern woman.
I don't know. I mean, you were already ready to marry someone else. You're the marrying kind. You're the multi-marrying kind.
Yeah, she's on a whirlwind of emotions in this show. She's engaged and gets broken up with while she's trying on her wedding dress, and all hell breaks loose. And then she's like, I'm gonna go meet some guy, and he invites her to have an Italian tasting, and then they fall in love in one night, and she's like, hey, I'm ready to get married. Let's do this. So
once you get a taste of Italian, that's it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, baby.
I'm not even going to go there. Oh, my. Stop it. Especially because it's such a charming family show.
It is. It really is. We've spent the last month, just over a month, really working the script and making it just so cohesive with the storylines for Sherry and her mom and Harry and his dad, and how wonderful those storylines can be when they're made real, you know, and to follow that through with really fun songs and the 3 voices who are incredibly talented, just making light of things that, you know, it's enjoyable for me on stage.
I don't know how you keep a straight face.
I don't either. I have to consciously tell myself not to look at them while I'm on stage.
This is a nice little winsome romantic musical comedy.
I call it a rom-com with music.
Lovely.
Yeah, I am very honored and humbled to be a part of it and to have been through this process with the writers there every day and Bill, our director. It's just been wonderful. I'm very grateful.
I feel to shape something from the get-go.
Yeah, I've never really done something exactly like this where I've been able to have input in how I think Sherry would handle a certain situation, and it's been wonderful working with Dan and Michael and Jen and Bill and just all be this cohesive unit in the audition room, in the rehearsal room, and just be able to all be on the same page and want the show to be good and successful and make Sherry, for me personally, make Sherry someone who is real and she does go through very heightened stages of emotions and what happens in her life, but it's still wonderful working with them to make that come from a place of reality and fun too, you know. That's life, you gotta have fun.
Well, and the audience has fun watching it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm glad they're having fun, because that's all we want. We want them to have a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely escapism.
Yes, definitely.
Especially for your character who escapes.
Yes, she does. Escapes from life. Tries to, anyway.
David Spadora.
And you get to be the object of desire.
Little Harry as he goes by, yeah.
But you're not so little.
Well, my dad doesn't think so, but you know, we get there.
And you meet this wonderful girl and she just sweeps you off your feet instead of the other way around. I love it. That was so different.
She's smart, she's sexy, she's warm, she's funny, she's everything I could dream of, and somebody I've never had the confidence to talk to be honest.
So you meet your dream and then you kill your father's dream. You terrible son.
I mean, it's really hard to have your own dreams not overshadow those of the ones that you love, their dreams too. It's hard not to overshadow that.
I know, but it's hard to break up things that, you know, you break up with your dad and make up with Sherry.
Right. She, you know, one door closes, another one opens kind of thing.
And then you have the wonderful Village Voices flittering around in the background.
They're amazing, and they're in our heads. We don't see them, we just hear things, and they kind of dictate our biggest fears and our biggest dreams.
And they do it so lovely, too.
They do. They're stunning. The three of them are amazing. And they've had so many incarnations of the Village Voices throughout the process, and it's really beautiful what they came out with tonight.
And I hear you got to have input in the characters and everything, too.
Oh, yeah. Through the entire rehearsal process, we had the writers there, which has been such a blessing because they're such wonderful people, and they were so open to changing things up and trying new things. It was as much a workshop as it was a rehearsal process, and the healthiest version that I could imagine.
Because they had this great idea. They wanted to bring it the best way they possibly could.
Right. Our director, Bill, has such a beautiful eye for finding the truth in scenes. He reeled everything in from showy music theater and wanted to find the heart of each character's intention, and I think we really chipped away and found the heart of the story that talks all about family and dreams and love and new chances.
And everything that's important to people.
Yeah. Everything that because it's so rare to get a new chance, a fresh chance after making a mistake, or you know, you don't always get another opportunity to try something new, and it's beautiful when those moments open up in the show. And I think I mean, it's just such a joy every night to relive those moments and discover new things, because it's complicated. There's many layers.
Just like lasagna.
Just like lasagna, yeah. Add some curry sauce in there, and things get interesting.
Well, who was a bride several times.
Yes.
Are you ready? Here we are with
Robin Sky.
And you get to do that wonderful la 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 la.
No, I have so much fun. Who gets to skip anymore, especially at my age? So it's fabulous.
Yes, especially with those Village Voices helping you out.
They're the best. Oh, they're one of my favorite moments in the show.
I know, you all love those Village Voices.
We love the Village Voices. They're great, and they've worked so unbelievably hard. And we're like a big family back there, so it's great.
Would you like to have the Village Voices with you all the time in real life?
Like underscoring my life. How interesting. The soundtrack to my life. That's a great idea. Who knew?
So, what's it like being the mother of the bride?
It's sort of fabulous. I don't have any children, and Morgan and I are so close that I actually at times believe that I'm the mother of the bride. I mean, it's wonderful. And, you know, getting to work with her is such a treat. So it's a good thing.
And it's also, what can be better than having this brilliant shopping experience? We get to buy the most beautiful dress ever.
I know. In the chicest place, in this cool, unknown place in New York where they have the gorgeous, gorgeous original dresses. I know. It's kind of fabulous. It is. It is. It's great pretend and make believe.
We are with.
I'm Ben Chavez.
Claire Saunders.
I'm Jesse Manicherian.
And these are the Village Voices that we've been talking about this entire evening. The characters love you.
Thank you.
So much fun for us.
Yeah, really.
They wanted to have you in their own lives to walk around and make their lives even more magical.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
I think so. Yeah.
I've been getting a lot of that. People telling me that they want the three of us to follow them around and just push them a little bit, you know?
In the right direction.
Yes. Cheering squad.
You had actually the funnest part because you get to interact with all the characters and do fun, silly things with feather fans and all sorts of and mannequins. I mean, that must be so much fun for you guys.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like a marathon for us because we come on, we do one bit, and then we run off stage, do a costume change, and we come on and we're doing something completely different, you know?
Yeah, and it's fun in terms of our characters too, because we kind of view them as not like we're on different characters, but that we dress up as the voices. So we get to continue to be our through line gets to continue to do that, but we just come on stage in different costumes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think the show is a love story to musical theater, and we get to play the musical theater in it. So what could be better about that, right?
Yeah, you're like the cheerful Greek chorus.
Yeah.
Only you're the Italian chorus, I guess you'd be in this show.
Yeah, sometimes. Right. Yeah, sometimes we are. Speak a little Italian here and there.
Manja.
Oh, I'm sorry, keeping you from mangi.
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, what else can you tell me about the Village Voices? Like, if you had your own Village Voice, what would you want them to do?
Oh, my Village Voices are definitely around. Like, I believe that they are the voice of the city that sort of whispers in our ears and gets us to be living life the way that we're supposed to be in New York, staying active and staying moving forward. So I definitely have Village Voices. They just live up here.
Yeah, and I think they show up in your friends or in my friends, you know, in different ways, and whether they know how they're affecting me, but movements or whatever, you know, whatever you want to call those Village Voices. I think we could get really spiritual with that, but I think that that there is something guiding you constantly, and you know, whether you want to call it a Village Voice or whatever that name is, but I think that it's very present if you listen to it, you know.
Yeah, I think because all of us in New York City, so many of us come from all over the place, you know, I think it's important to have our own little family of Village Voices in this city with us. You know, so I have different communities of Village Voices in different, you know, places that I go. Like this is my community right here.
Yeah.
You know, so.
In New York.
Yeah.
Yes.
And New York. Yeah, a wonderful home for the past, what is it,
5 weeks so far, but hopefully more. We're loving it, and the cast is a real family, which is the best part about it. I don't know what I would do without these two at this point.
I don't know. It's been, you know, a new musical is a very different beast from you know, you get a script and you're working on that script for 6 weeks or what have you, and this we've been changing and morphing and, you know, growing, and that's been a very specific process, and we are so blessed with the cast that we have had and the crew of people that we've had to be with us through that process.
And you get to join in mostly all the songs. I mean, do you have trouble do you go home and you're still singing the songs because they're so catchy?
I mean, the last song I probably, every night when I'm walking home, I probably sing the last song through, just because it's the last song in the show, and therefore it's the last song in my head. But all of them, I mean, we enjoy all of them for different reasons and in different moments, I'd say, in our lives.
Yeah, they're always stuck in my head. I go home singing them.
Always singing the songs. The melody Harry's Way is just always in my head. But maybe that's because I like food.
Who doesn't? And see, the music is also inspiring just as much as your character.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. They are.
the songs are everything in this show. I mean, like, I love the book of this musical, but we get to pop up and be the magical musical world of it. And
Yeah.
that's what got me into musical theater when I was young, and seeing shows at the York, actually. So I love being able to do that on this stage.
And I think that I think musical theater is particularly moving when the songs actually move a character forward. You know, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, this moment has a song, and nothing will happen within the song, but I think that this piece is unique in the positive way of the fact that the songs move the characters forward, and it's really wonderful that we get to be part of that movement.
I was going to say, that's our job, really, right? To keep this thing moving forward, to keep pushing them into the next stage or the next scene.
And also the emotions. You bring out all the emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely are sort of embodying the thoughts that are in these characters' minds, you know, which is fun and exciting for us.
Yeah, and we've talked about how we don't necessarily know, you know, it's not like we're all knowing voices, you know, that when we take the breath, we're checking in with them, we're figuring out where they are, and then being able to know where to push them or where to, you know, force them to breathe, to have that moment of reflection, you know. And that's, I think, a unique part about this Greek chorus is that we are we're not all knowing, and we are
sharing the experience.
Yeah.
We're guiding and sharing in the experience.
We're like along for the ride too. You know, it's fresh for us.
Well, it's a great ride, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.